If you hold a firearms certificate, the landscape just shifted beneath your feet, and the whispers you've been hearing about safe storage are actually a tidal wave. This isn't about politics, it's about protecting your collection and your liberty. The Home Office has dropped a stealth bomb of new requirements that change everything, from how you secure your bolts to who can even step foot in your gun room. We're talking about a crackdown so severe that a simple oversight could cost you your FAC and your freedom. Think you're compliant? Think again. There are amendments hidden in the fine print about security hardening that could render your current setup instantly obsolete. Imagine a knock on the door, an inspection, and suddenly finding yourself on the wrong side of the law without even knowing you broke it. Don't let this be you. I'm breaking down the 5 critical changes that every shooter, hunter, and collector needs to implement starting today. If you value your license, hit that like button, and let's make sure your security passes the test. Your certificate depends on it. Let's talk about what has actually changed, because this isn't just the Home Office shuffling paperwork. This is a fundamental shift in how we're expected to approach every single aspect of firearm ownership. The first thing you need to understand is that the goalposts for storage have moved, and they've moved in a way that could catch even the most diligent certificate holder off guard. We all know the basics, right? You need a police-approved safe. It needs to be bolted to the solid structure of your house, not just screwed into some wooden studs. And you need to make sure that unauthorized people, especially minors, can't get access. That has been the standard for a long time. But the new guidance, and the way police forces are interpreting and enforcing it, has dialed the scrutiny up to 11. It's no longer enough to have a safe that meets the basic specification. The expectation now is that your entire security setup is proportionate to the risk, and the risk assessment is getting a lot tougher. Think about the security handbook from the Home Office. It's been updated, and the police are using it as a Bible. They're not just looking at the safe anymore. They're looking at the room it's in, the construction of the walls, the doors, the windows, even the alarm system of your property. It's a holistic approach to security that makes the old just bolt it to the wall philosophy look dangerously outdated. Consider the idea of a hardened room. We used to hear that term thrown around in the context of serious collectors or dealers, but now it's becoming a realistic expectation for anyone with a significant number of firearms or high-value pieces. The police want to see a layered defense. Your safe is the last line, but the room itself needs to be a deterrent. Are the door hinges secure? Is the lock on the door adequate? Could someone gain entry to that room without having to break into the safe itself? These are the questions that are now being asked, and if you can't provide satisfactory answers, you might find your application delayed or your renewal refused. There's a growing sense that a safe in a standard bedroom or a garden shed is no longer considered sufficient unless that bedroom or shed has been fortified. It sounds extreme, and for many it might be overkill, but the police have the authority to interpret the guidance in a way that suits their local policy. And many forces are taking a very hard line on this. They're not just checking a box, they're assessing the entire context of your firearms ownership and your responsibility to the public. It's a reasonably practicable standard, but the definition of reasonably practicable is narrowing significantly. If there is a more secure way to store your firearms that is physically possible, and you haven't done it, you could be considered in breach of your conditions. This pressure is forcing FAC holders to think about security in a completely new way, moving beyond compliance to a proactive, risk-managed mindset. And then there's the issue of the once FAC, always FAC rule, which adds another layer of complexity to ownership that many people simply don't think about until it's too late. This principle is an absolute game changer for anyone who owns or is thinking about owning an air rifle that crosses the 12 foot-pounds power threshold. In the UK, we have this weird two-tier system for air guns, sub 12 foot-pounds, and you're in the clear, In most of England and Wales, no certificate needed, you can just go out and buy one. But the moment you decide to tune that air rifle up, or you buy one that's factory set to exceed that power limit, you're in an entirely different legal universe. That air gun is now classified as a Section 1 firearm, which means it goes onto your Firearms Certificate, and it is a firearm forevermore. You can't just detune it and go back to the simpler certificate-free life. It's on the police database, and it's subject to all the same storage requirements, security checks, and good reason criteria as a centerfire rifle. That's a massive commitment, and it's one that a lot of people don't fully appreciate until they're stuck with a high-powered air rifle they can't easily sell or store. This rule is designed to prevent people from circumventing the licensing system, and it's a stark reminder that once you step up into the world of FAC ownership, there's no going back. That's why anyone even considering a more powerful air rifle for longer-range target shooting or vermin control needs to be absolutely certain they're ready for the full weight of responsibility that comes with it. The UK has a long history of restricting and monitoring the availability of firearms to the public, and by bringing these more powerful airguns under the FAC umbrella, the system is trying to ensure that only those who have passed rigorous background and medical checks can access them. The aim is to minimize the risk to the public, and this principle is at the very heart of the changes we're seeing. Now let's get into the nitty-gritty of the application and variation process, because this is another area where the rules have tightened up in a way that's going to cost you time and money. The variation process is the one that really gets to me. In the past, if you wanted to swap a rifle for another of a similar caliber, a one-for-one variation, you could often do it for free, provided you were slotting it into an existing slot on your certificate. That's no longer the case for many of us. The Home Office has been consulting on fee changes for a while, and the direction of travel is very clearly towards full cost recovery. Those historic fees from 1988 and 2000, they were a steal, but those days are over. New fee structures have been proposed that would see the one-for-one variation come with a price tag. It's part of a wider move to make the firearms licensing system cost-neutral, shifting the financial burden from the taxpayer to the certificate holder. For the average shooter who might swap a rifle a couple of times a year, this becomes a significant additional expense. And it's not just about the money, it's the time. Each variation requires you to send off your certificate, wait for the police to process the paperwork, and then receive it back before you can even go and look at a potential new rifle. The delays are notorious, and it's a process that is frustratingly slow. There's talk of a smart card-based system to streamline this, moving away from the paper-based FAC and allowing for dynamic updates at the point of sale, which would be a game-changer. But we're not there yet, and in the meantime, we're stuck with a system that feels hopelessly out of date. The pressure is on, and the system is creaking. Every variation, every application puts a strain on the already overworked firearms licensing departments, and the proposed fee increases, while unpopular, are a reflection of that reality. It means you have to be more strategic about your collection, more mindful of every slot on your certificate, and more willing to accept delays as part of the process. The days of a quick, cost-free swap are behind us, and that's a significant change that affects the day-to-day reality of being an FAC holder.